Let me ask you something. What if I told you that you don't need a new life? You don't need a new network. You don't even need a massive breakthrough in 2026. What if all you needed was 1%, not 100%, not overnight success, not some viral moment, just 1% better every single day? See, most people are waiting for lightning to strike, but champions, they build electricity. And in 2026, the ones who win won't be the loudest. They'll be the ones who improve quietly, 1% at a time. We live in a time where everybody wants the breakthrough, but nobody wants the buildup. We celebrate overnight success stories without studying the thousands of quiet mornings that made them possible. The world glorifies the finished product, the championship trophy, the sold-out arena, the thriving business, but rarely does it spotlight the microscopic improvements that stacked up behind the scenes. The 1% rule forces us to respect the process. It teaches us that transformation doesn't arrive in a single explosive moment. It arrives in fragments, tiny fragments. A slight adjustment in discipline, a small shift in thinking, a minor improvement in execution. Those fragments, repeated daily, form a force that becomes impossible to ignore. The beauty of 1% improvement is that it doesn't intimidate you. It doesn't demand that you reinvent yourself overnight. It simply asks, can you be a little better than yesterday? That's it. A little sharper, a little more patient, a little more prepared. When you commit to that standard, something powerful happens. Progress becomes sustainable. You're no longer chasing extreme change that burns you out in 2 weeks. You're building momentum you can actually maintain. And momentum, once it starts rolling, becomes a machine. It multiplies effort. It magnifies discipline. It turns what once felt difficult into something automatic. Most people underestimate small gains because they can't immediately see the payoff. One extra page read doesn't feel life-changing. One healthier choice doesn't transform your body overnight. One additional phone call doesn't suddenly explode your business. But here's what they miss: success compounds. Just like money grows with interest, effort grows with repetition. That one extra page becomes a book. That healthier choice becomes a habit. That additional call becomes a network. And over time, those habits don't just improve your results. They reshape your identity. You're no longer someone trying to improve. You become someone who improves daily. Compounding works in both directions. If you decline by 1% every day, procrastinating a little more, doubting yourself a little longer, cutting corners a little too often, that decline also multiplies. It quietly erodes your confidence, your skill, your opportunities. That's why the 1% rule is so powerful. It makes you conscious. It forces you to recognize that there are no neutral days. You are either building or drifting, either sharpening or dulling, either investing or withdrawing. Small actions are never small when they're repeated consistently. They are votes for the person you are becoming. There's also something deeply empowering about focusing on small improvements. Big goals can feel overwhelming. They create pressure. They create anxiety. They make you question whether you're capable. But a 1% improvement, that feels doable. It feels accessible. And because it feels accessible, you're more likely to act. Action builds confidence. Confidence builds consistency. Consistency builds mastery. Suddenly, what began as a tiny daily effort evolves into an unstoppable standard. You don't have to force growth anymore. Growth becomes a byproduct of who you are. And here's the truth that separates high performers from everyone else. They respect the inch. They understand that greatness isn't achieved in miles, it's achieved in inches. They show up for the tiny refinements. They polish the details others ignore. They tighten the screws that seem insignificant because they know that excellence lives in those margins. In 2026, the advantage will not belong to those who make dramatic declarations. It will belong to those who quietly stack days. Days of slight improvement. Days of small discipline. Days of subtle refinement. And when the year closes, the difference between those who committed to 1% growth and those who waited for a breakthrough will not be small. It will be undeniable. Motivation is a fickle friend. It arrives with the sunrise and disappears with the sunset. Some days you wake up feeling unstoppable, ready to conquer your goals, and some days even getting out of bed feels like a battle. If you rely solely on motivation, you will never reach your full potential because feelings are temporary and unpredictable. The 1% rule teaches us that real progress doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on action. It's the small, steady steps taken day after day, regardless of how you feel, that accumulate into results that feel impossible to outsiders. Consistency doesn't ask for permission from your emotions. It asks for your commitment. Consistency is what separates the dreamers from the doers. While others wait for the perfect moment, the perfect mood, or the perfect level of inspiration, disciplined individuals show up anyway. They keep moving even when energy is low, when results aren't visible, and when it feels like nothing is happening. That's the essence of the 1% rule. 1% effort today, 1% effort tomorrow, and the cumulative effect transforms ordinary people into extraordinary ones. The key is to understand that progress does not require a heroic effort in a single day. It requires a habit of showing up no matter the circumstances. Consider this: consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds results. Imagine rolling a snowball. At first, it's tiny and heavy to push. But if you keep going, applying small, steady pressure, it starts rolling faster, gaining size, and eventually becomes unstoppable. Your daily actions are your snowball. Motivation might give you a push, but consistency ensures the snowball grows exponentially. 1% improvement each day isn't about dramatic leaps. It's about the quiet, unwavering accumulation of effort that no one sees, until suddenly the results are undeniable. Another powerful aspect of consistency is that it builds trust in yourself. Every time you honor a commitment to your own growth, even a tiny one, you are proving that you can rely on yourself. That proof becomes the foundation of confidence, self-discipline, and resilience. Motivation cannot build that trust because it is external and fleeting, but consistent action reinforces your identity as someone who delivers, someone who doesn't quit, someone who keeps moving forward, even when the road is difficult. That trust becomes invaluable, especially when challenges multiply and external support is absent. Consistency also amplifies learning. Each day you show up, you gain feedback, adjust your approach, and refine your skills. Tiny improvements compound not only in results, but in knowledge and mastery. Without consistency, you cannot identify patterns, correct mistakes, or grow steadily. Motivation alone will carry you only sporadically, leaving gaps in experience and skill. The 1% rule leverages consistency as the engine that transforms effort into expertise over time. Every day becomes an investment in mastery, even if it feels mundane. Finally, consistency shapes your environment and your opportunities. People notice reliability, effort, and commitment. Doors open not because of one grand gesture, but because you have proven repeatedly that you show up, deliver, and improve. By focusing on small, consistent actions, you become someone who attracts opportunities naturally. In 2026, those who rely on bursts of inspiration will be left behind. Those who embrace the 1% rule and build unstoppable consistency will thrive, quietly moving toward results that others can only envy from a distance. Goals are inspiring. They give you direction. They make you visualize success. But goals alone rarely produce results. They are destinations, not vehicles. You can dream about running a marathon, writing a bestseller, or building a business empire, but if you don't have a system, a repeatable process that gets you there, that dream remains just that, a dream. The 1% rule teaches us to shift attention from the what to the how. Instead of obsessing over the finish line, focus on the daily practices that will carry you there. Systems are the bridge between ambition and achievement. A system is a set of habits, routines, and behaviors designed to produce results consistently. If your goal is to write a book, a system is committing to writing a set number of words each day, regardless of inspiration. If your goal is financial independence, a system might include saving a small percentage of every paycheck or tracking every expense daily. Systems take the pressure off willpower and motivation because they remove ambiguity. When you know exactly what to do every day, your energy goes toward execution, not decision fatigue. 1% improvement in your system today compounds into massive results over months and years. Goals without systems are fragile. They leave you at the mercy of chance, luck, or bursts of motivation. Someone might want to lose weight, but without a system of consistent exercise and healthy meals, they will likely fail. Someone might dream of building a successful business, but without a system of daily sales, outreach, and learning, that dream stagnates. By building a system, you ensure that your progress doesn't depend on external circumstances. You make success inevitable, not optional. The 1% rule magnifies this effect. Tiny adjustments to your system compound faster than sporadic bursts of effort toward a goal. Another powerful aspect of systems is that they teach you to focus on process over outcome. When your energy is invested in execution, you stop obsessing over results you cannot control. Instead of asking, "Will I hit my target this month?" you ask, "Did I do my work today?" This subtle shift frees your mind from anxiety, comparison, and distraction. By focusing on systems, you start to enjoy the journey rather than waiting for the destination to validate your effort. And that is where consistent growth happens. The small, daily improvements that build skill, confidence, and resilience. Systems also allow for compounding in ways goals cannot. Goals are binary. You either achieve them or you don't. Systems are continuous. Each day, each repetition, each minor adjustment adds a layer of progress. A 1% improvement in your system today might mean writing a few more words, making a slightly better decision, or improving efficiency by a tiny margin. Tomorrow, you repeat. And the next day, you improve again. The magic of systems is that the results are often delayed but exponential. By the end of the year, the accumulation of these micro efforts produces outcomes far beyond what you initially imagined. Finally, the 1% rule transforms systems into identity. When you focus on your daily habits, these actions define who you are. You don't just want to be a writer. You become a writer by showing up each day to write. You don't just want to be fit. You become someone who consistently chooses health. Systems mold character, which molds results. In 2026, those who rely solely on goals will chase outcomes that often elude them. Those who master systems, however, will experience effortless growth because their identity, effort, and environment are all aligned toward continuous improvement. Energy is the most valuable resource you have. Time is limited, yes, but time without energy is useless. You can schedule hours for work, study, or exercise, but if your mind is drained and your body is exhausted, those hours produce little value. The 1% rule emphasizes that small improvements are only possible when your energy is protected. Every decision, every task, and every interaction draws from this limited reserve. In 2026, people who master their energy, not just their time, will rise above those who waste it on distractions, negativity, or obligations that don't serve them. Protecting your energy means being intentional about what you allow into your life. Social media, toxic relationships, and constant digital noise may seem harmless, but they slowly erode focus, motivation, and mental clarity. Each tiny distraction might feel insignificant, but over time, these micro drains accumulate, leaving you depleted when it's time to perform. 1% improvement could be as simple as turning off notifications for an hour each day, setting boundaries with people who drain you, or dedicating time to rest and recharge. Small energy savings compound into higher productivity, sharper decisions, and more consistent performance. Another dimension of energy management is physical health. Energy is not just mental, it's physical. Sleep, nutrition, and movement are the foundation of sustained growth. Skipping sleep may seem inconsequential tonight, but the fatigue compounds over weeks. Choosing fast food over balanced meals may feel convenient, but your focus, mood, and performance silently suffer. By prioritizing sleep, eating well, and moving your body daily, even in small increments, you protect the energy needed to take consistent action. 1% better choices in these areas may seem tiny, but over months they accumulate into a resilient, high-performance body and mind. Emotional energy is equally crucial. Constant stress, resentment, or frustration is like running a marathon with weights on your ankles. Every negative thought or argument steals the fuel needed to push forward. The 1% rule encourages protecting your emotional state by managing your environment and responses. Saying no when necessary, practicing gratitude, and letting go of grudges may feel minor, but these small shifts allow your mental and emotional energy to stay focused on growth. Energy spent wisely becomes momentum. Energy spent poorly becomes wasted potential. Energy management also extends to focus and attention. Multitasking, jumping between tasks, or constantly checking updates dilutes your mental power. The brain performs best when it is concentrated on one high-value task at a time. 1% improvement here might mean dedicating a focused 90-minute block to your highest priority work instead of scattering attention across distractions. Over time, these focused efforts compound into mastery, efficiency, and breakthroughs that others never achieve because they are busy being busy. Finally, protecting energy is about discipline and awareness. It's about recognizing that every action costs something and choosing carefully where to spend it. Small improvements aren't possible if energy is constantly depleted. By valuing your energy as currency, you make better decisions, prioritize the right tasks, and invest in habits that pay long-term dividends. In 2026, those who learn to protect and allocate their energy wisely will achieve far more with less struggle, while those who ignore it will burn out chasing results they could have achieved quietly, steadily, and sustainably. Success is rarely glamorous. Most people think greatness comes in big cinematic moments, the standing ovation, the viral post, the sudden promotion. But the truth is, real success lives in the boring days, the ordinary routines, and the unseen efforts that nobody notices. The 1% rule teaches us that excellence is built not in the spotlight, but in repetition, patience, and persistence. Every small action repeated consistently, even when it feels mundane, compounds into extraordinary results over time. In 2026, those who learn to embrace the ordinary will outperform those chasing the extraordinary. Boring days are where discipline is forged. When you go to the gym, even though your body aches, write another page, even though nobody will read it today, or make that extra sales call even when you feel unmotivated, you are training your mind to commit to consistency over excitement. The 1% rule shows that these small, often invisible actions are what separate people who achieve their goals from those who only dream about them. Ordinary days are not wasted. They are the foundation of all progress. Another critical aspect of mastering boring days is developing patience. In a world of instant gratification, it's easy to give up when results aren't immediate. But small improvements require time to compound. Skipping one session, one practice, or one task may not seem critical today, but over weeks and months, these gaps accumulate. By committing to the small daily actions, even when they feel tedious, you develop patience, a superpower that allows you to stay on track when others quit. Success is not a sprint, it's a long, steady marathon that rewards those willing to endure the ordinary. Mastering boring days also strengthens character. When nobody is watching, when there is no applause, when external validation is absent, your habits reveal your true self. Are you someone who shows up regardless, who respects the process, who values progress over recognition? Or are you someone who only performs when excitement or attention is guaranteed? The 1% rule turns attention inward, teaching that greatness comes from integrity and commitment to oneself rather than from external validation. In the long run, this builds confidence, resilience, and self-reliance. Consistency in boring days also builds momentum in invisible ways. The effort may feel unremarkable today, but over weeks, months, and years, the accumulation of small actions becomes unstoppable. The small improvements compound, forming a trajectory that, when viewed over time, appears dramatic and transformational. It's a subtle but undeniable truth. Mastery is never flashy in the beginning. It is hidden, invisible, and boring until the results become so powerful that nobody can ignore them. Finally, mastering boring days changes your relationship with success itself. Instead of chasing peaks, you start valuing the process. You stop fearing repetition or routine and begin to embrace it as the vehicle for growth. The 1% rule teaches that consistency in ordinary moments, commitment to daily improvement, and respect for the small actions are what create extraordinary outcomes. In 2026, those who fall in love with the mundane will quietly outwork, outperform, and outlast those seeking only excitement, recognition, or shortcuts. Mastery is boring, and that is exactly why it works. Most people think confidence comes first, that somehow they need to feel ready, prepared, or good enough before taking action. That's a myth. True confidence is earned brick by brick through small, consistent victories. The 1% rule shows that confidence is not a sudden surge of courage. It's the quiet accumulation of evidence that you can deliver, endure, and improve. Every tiny success, every small step completed becomes a micro win that fuels belief in yourself. In 2026, the people who act despite doubt, who take small steps consistently, will develop a confidence that feels unshakable. Micro wins are powerful because they are visible proof of your capabilities. They are the signals that tell your mind, I can do this. One extra page written, one extra call made, one disciplined choice in the face of temptation. Each small victory reinforces the idea that you are competent and capable. Confidence does not come from imagining yourself as great. It comes from proving to yourself over and over that you are reliable, disciplined, and committed. These micro wins are like deposits in a confidence bank account that compounds daily. Another key aspect is that micro wins reduce fear. When you face challenges, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or doubt your ability to succeed. But by stacking small, manageable wins, you create a foundation that diminishes fear and hesitation. Each micro win adds to your proof that challenges are not insurmountable. You develop a mental library of, I've done this before, and I can do it again, which becomes your internal safety net. Confidence is no longer an abstract idea. It is grounded in repeated experience. Micro wins also build momentum. Confidence grows in layers, not leaps. Each small success encourages the next, and each step forward increases the likelihood of further action. Over time, what began as a subtle accumulation of victories becomes a cascade of results that others notice. The quiet discipline of small improvements transforms into visible achievement, and the confidence you gain from these repeated actions allows you to take on bigger challenges with less hesitation. The process becomes self-reinforcing. Action builds confidence, and confidence drives action. Importantly, confidence earned from micro wins is resilient. It is not fragile or dependent on external validation. You don't need applause, recognition, or approval to feel capable. Each micro win strengthens your identity as someone who shows up, delivers, and improves. This internalized confidence sustains you even during setbacks, failures, or criticism. In 2026, those who rely on external validation will crumble under pressure, while those who have earned confidence through consistent incremental wins will remain steady and composed, able to navigate challenges with clarity. Finally, the 1% rule teaches that confidence grows not in leaps but in habits. Every day you commit to small improvements, you reinforce the idea that effort produces results. You start to trust your process, your choices, and your persistence. This trust becomes a quiet, powerful force guiding your decisions, your risks, and your actions. Confidence is no longer a feeling to chase. It is a byproduct of your consistent effort, your integrity, and your ability to honor your commitments to yourself. In 2026, those who accumulate micro wins will walk into any situation with a grounded, unshakable belief, not because luck favored them, but because they earned it 1% at a time. So here's the truth. You don't need to chase massive breakthroughs in 2026. You don't need to wait for inspiration, luck, or permission. All you need is 1%, one small deliberate improvement every single day. Stack those micro wins, protect your energy, master the ordinary, trust your systems, and stay consistent. And suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Remember this, the world celebrates the loud, the flashy, and the overnight success stories, but real transformation happens quietly in the margins, in the moments nobody sees. Those are the moments that define character, build confidence, and create unstoppable momentum. Those are the moments that separate the people who talk about change from the people who live it. So in 2026, commit to the small things. Commit to showing up even when it's hard. Commit to improving even when it feels invisible. Commit to 1% every day. Because when you do, by the end of the year, you won't recognize the person you've become. You won't recognize the results you've created, and you will finally understand what it truly means to let small, consistent effort compound into extraordinary success.